The day my boyfriend's first love was discharged from the hospital. He drove dozens of kilometers to see her and held a small wedding ceremony with her. He explained she'll never be able to walk again. This is her only wish. I couldn't refuse to help her fulfill it. And what about me? What am I supposed to be on stage? My current boyfriend is deeply affectionate with someone else. Offstage, my ex-boyfriend sneers at me. Francesca, I thought you would be doing so much better after leaving me. Chapter 1. Grayson. My ex-boyfriend standing beside me at this moment, his voice dripping with sarcasm. So this is all it comes to. I was momentarily stunned, pressing my lips together without saying a word. I just stared at the two people in the center of the hospital lobby. Lucas knelt on one knee, placing a wedding ring on the bride, sitting in the wheelchair. At that moment, the room erupted in applause. The atmosphere was vibrant, and Lucas lifted her veil. I finally saw the star of his show, Lucas's first love, Fernanda. The crowd began to chant kiss kiss. Fernanda, unable to stand on tiptoe, lifted her head and pouted her lips, looking at Lucas with eyes full of affection. Perhaps because he remembered me, his girlfriend of just over a month. Lucas hesitated for a few seconds, then finally kissed the side of her face. At that moment, he looked up and saw me, standing on the outskirts of the crowd, and Grayson too. Lucas was immediately stunned, his expression flustered, as he released Fernanda's hand and made a move to chase after me. Fernanda quickly grabbed his arm, her eyes filled with tears as she pleaded. Lucas, you can't just leave me like this. The guests, unaware of the situation, turned their gaze toward me. They frowned disapprovingly. Who is this woman? What's she doing here? She's ruining a perfectly good wedding. I didn't bother responding, my eyes fixed on Lucas. He shook off Fernanda's hand and, in front of everyone, took a few steps to stand before me. Fran. Lucas glanced at Grayson, his hand clenched into a fist. Nanda had a car accident and she might never walk again. She just wanted someone to help her experience what it's like to be a bride. I hadn't spoken yet, but Grayson chuckled. Lucas's face darkened instantly. His arms tensed, veins popping, as he looked at me with restrained emotion. Friend, I'm sorry I messed up. Can you, Lucas? I interrupted him, asking softly. She just wanted someone to help. But why did that someone have to be you? Lucas and I had known each other for almost a year, having met through mutual friends. I always thought he was someone who knew boundaries, but I never imagined that, just 1 month into our relationship, he would do something like this. Lucas understood my meaning. He instinctively took a step forward, wanting to grab me. But as soon as he lifted his leg, Grayson stepped forward, blocking him with his body. I stood still, looking up at the back of Grayson's head. His sudden movement brought us closer, his presence surrounding me. For a moment, it felt like I was being pulled back to a moment. Years ago. It was late, and I was walking back to campus alone, when 2 strangers with cigarettes in their mouths blocked my way, asking for my contact information. I refused, but they wouldn't let me leave. Just as they reached out to grab me, Grayson appeared. He strode in front of me, blocking the 2 men. Didn't you hear her say she's not interested? Grayson had stood in front of me like this many times. I felt a bit dazed, as if I had returned to that time. Lucas noticed first, hesitating, his fists clenched even tighter. Fran, I interrupted him, my tone indifferent. Lucas, let's break up. Before the words had fully settled, Grayson turned back to look at me. I didn't want to stay here being watched by everyone, but he grabbed my wrist. His grip was too strong, making me wince in pain. Grayson immediately loosened his hold. He gazed at me intently. Shall we go? Chapter 2. Of course. All I want to do now is escape from this absurd and melodramatic situation. Dusk was falling, and the city lights were just beginning to shine. Grayson silently followed behind me. The distance was neither too close nor too far, but impossible to ignore. Grayson, I called out. the evening breeze carrying my voice far away. It's been a long time. It was at that moment that I finally felt the weight of the situation, realizing the significance of this reunion. The footsteps behind me paused for a few seconds, then resumed. Each step echoed in my heart, both soft and loud. Grayson chuckled, his tone indifferent. You know, it's been a long time since we last saw each other. Hearing that, I stopped and turned to look at him. He stood a few meters away from me, his brows furrowed, the night's inky darkness enveloping him, making him appear unapproachable. Grayson, I called his name, pulling a small smile. It's been 6 years and you still sigh. Grayson didn't respond. He took a few steps closer, standing firmly in front of me, with an undeniable presence. Francesca. Grayson raised his hand to touch my face, his thumb pressing gently at the corner of my eye. Just staring at me like that. I squinted at him, trying to ignore the strange feeling in my heart. But he wouldn't let me off so easily. You like him that much you couldn't let him go. So you had to go to his wedding to finally give up. I turned my face away, breaking free from his grasp. Of course I liked him, and we were a good match. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been with him. But you, I looked him up and down, smiling slightly. You wouldn't still be hung up on me, would you? Upon hearing that, Grayson, what makes you think I'd still like you? Francesca, don't forget. You were the one who asked for the breakup. Just as I expected. I haven't forgotten. I shook my head, not wanting to argue with him any further. By the way, why were you at the hospital? Grayson seemed surprised by the sudden change of topic, and instinctively replied, my stomach was acting up. I clicked my tongue. Grayson, you really are a spoiled brat. As soon as I said that, Grayson pressed his lips together, his expression darkening. It was clear he remembered the reason I broke up with him. You're a privileged young master dating. You felt like everyone around us had to come warn me. Grayson, admit it. Your mom was right, we're not from the same world. Being together would only lead to exhaustion. And eventually you'd be heartbroken and I'd be sad. Grayson, that's just how I am. There's a saying, if someone or something makes you sad, just stay far away from it. Chapter 3. Grayson and I were college classmates. We were also each other's first love. In our early 20s, we loved each other with fiery passion. He came from a good family, had good looks, and was capable. Such a person was always the center of attention. It was like that since college. There were always people pursuing him, getting close to him. But Grayson rejected them all thoroughly. He never gave anyone a chance to get close to him. That was the security he gave me. He was the one who pushed me forward, holding my hand, standing side by side with me. At that time, I had his clear and unwavering love. But reality is cruel. At first gave me a sweet taste, only to slap me hard afterward. For the most cliché of reasons. Grayson's family arranged a fiancé for him. At first he was, of course, against it, arguing fiercely, even running away from home. It seemed like I was his entire world. To be honest, I felt burdened. At that time, then one after another came his mother, his uncle, and others, along with that excellent fiancé they always talked about. But I never saw. I was really exhausted, suddenly feeling that Grayson and I were, indeed, from different worlds. Finally, I was threatened by his mother, just like a melodramatic TV drama. If I didn't break up with him, it wouldn't just be me who was in trouble, but also the people around me. It wasn't as dramatic as in the TV shows. No rainy breakups. No tears of misunderstanding, none of that. I simply told Grayson everything honestly, then said I was tired. Love should be happy and joyful, not a lone fight against the world. Who knows how much more trouble it would bring, and whether we'd end up resenting each other. So, let's stop it all while everything is still beautiful. Elders always say that marriage should be between equals. During that time I agreed, so I broke up with Grayson. He looked at me in disbelief, saying he wouldn't agree. I smiled and told him that breaking up doesn't need mutual consent. Grayson begged me again and again. asking me to wait a little longer, saying he would sort everything out. But I still left decisively. I remember his final words to me, his gaze cold and harsh. "Francesca, I'll make you regret this." I swear at that time, I was heartbroken and sad, and I believed he was too. Maybe even more than I was. But eventually time heals everything. I never thought that we'd have a reunion like this. Chapter 4. The sudden ring of my phone broke the silence between us. I glanced at the screen. It was a call from Lucas. Grayson's expression darkened further, as he coldly mocked. "He still has the nerve to call you." Ignoring him, I answered the call. Lucas' anxious voice came through, sharp and almost grating. "Fran, where did you go? Please listen to me." I didn't know she asked me to help her with this. I was just confused for a moment. That's why I agreed. "Lucas," I interrupted him, glancing at Grayson, who was looking increasingly displeased. I was very clear. When we agreed to try this relationship, we cannot betray each other. Even if it's just once. Even if it was a moment of confusion. It's irreparable. Let's break up. "Lucas, Fran, I don't agree." I smiled slightly. Breaking up doesn't need mutual consent. With that, I hung up and blocked Lucas' contact information. Grayson stood there the entire time, like a guardian watching over me. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "It's irreparable." I didn't sense anything unusual, assuming he was talking about Lucas. When someone makes a mistake, they have to face the consequences. Isn't that normal? Grayson fell silent. Only then did I realize something was off. I turned to look at him. His deep black eyes were locked onto me, intense and unwavering. Grayson's voice was cold. But I didn't make a mistake back then. It was some coward who decided to leave me. It was she who let go of me, saying she was tired, that she didn't love me anymore. As he spoke, Grayson leaned in closer, his gaze fixed on mine. "Francesca, tell me," he asked, "who was really at fault?" Grayson must hate me. He was once the golden boy. But for me, he humbled himself again and again. For someone like him, getting anything he wanted was easy. Yet with me, he stumbled hard. "Grayson, does it really matter?" There was a brief silence before Grayson suddenly let out a soft laugh. He straightened up, but there was no trace of humor in his eyes. "Well, it's been 6 years. It would be pointless to keep being so serious about it now." No sooner had he spoken than his phone rang. As soon as he saw the caller ID, the coldness around him dissipated, his expression softening. He took a few steps away from me before answering the call, and I could only vaguely hear a woman's voice on the other end. "Okay, wait for me there, I'll be right over." Grayson didn't talk for long. He quickly hung up. For some reason, memories buried deep in my mind, once I thought had long faded, suddenly became clear again. Grayson loved filming. When we were together, he would constantly record with his camera. While eating, sleeping, shopping, traveling, he tirelessly documented every moment that was ours. He once proudly handed the camera to me, saying that if I ever missed him, I could watch the videos. I stubbornly said that day would never come. But after we broke up, I found myself watching those videos over and over again. His expressions in those videos, they once belonged only to me, but now watching him instinctively avoid my gaze, offering his gentleness to someone else, it hit me. No one stays in the same place forever. Not every reunion can repair what's been broken. At least not for us. Perhaps the golden boy who had never been rejected, seeing me, his hateful first love who once abandoned him, he must still feel a sense of resentment. Chapter 5. After that reunion, Grayson and I didn't see each other for a long time. The connection between people can be deep or shallow, depending on how fate plays its hand. When I saw Grayson in the conference room that day, I thought fate's mood today is hard to assess. As soon as I took my seat, the conference room door was violently flung open. I looked up to see Lucas, whom I hadn't seen in a while. He didn't look well. His face was pale. His shirt was wrinkled. His chin was shadowed with stubble, and dark circles under his eyes indicated he hadn't rested well for a long time. Lucas stared at me, his eyes reflecting a light I couldn't quite decipher. A sense of foreboding settled in my chest. I quickly motioned to my assistant, but I was a step too late. Lucas walked briskly towards me, his voice filled with sorrow. "Fran, what did I do wrong that you had to break up with me? We've known each other for over a year. Don't you know what kind of person I am? What happened that day was just a misunderstanding." Faced with Lucas's complete disregard for the situation, I suddenly realized I had no idea what kind of person he really was. Lucas was introduced to me by my mother. My mother was getting on in years and, seeing that I was nearing 30 without a boyfriend, she started to worry about my marriage prospects. I complied with her wishes and agreed to meet him. When I first met Lucas, he brought a bouquet of flowers. His shirt was buttoned meticulously to the top, and he gave off a pleasant, warm impression. But years earlier, I had already encountered someone far more dazzling. Faced with such an excellent prospect, I didn't even feel the urge to give it a try. During that meal, I made my lack of interest quite clear, but Lucas didn't retreat. He said he wanted to wait, that maybe one day I'd feel something for him. And so he waited for over a year. He was generous, considerate, gentle, and reliable. Sometimes I thought being with him wouldn't be so bad, but I never felt the impulse to go all in. Except for that one time. A month ago, my mother had a relapse of an old illness while I was on a business trip and couldn't rush back in time. Lucas drove to my house in the middle of the night and took her to the hospital, just in time, preventing a worse outcome. That night, he stayed by the operating room without sleep, sending me constant messages to reassure me. Falling in love is hard, but feeling at ease in a moment is easy. I remember clearly when I arrived at the hospital early the next morning and agreed to give us a try. Lucas was stunned for a few seconds before nodding in agreement. The way he looked at me then was full of affection, but I haven't forgotten how he knelt on one knee to put a ring on his first love's finger. The human heart is the hardest thing to predict. Whether it was a moment of confusion or a willing act, only he knows. Just like now, whether he genuinely regrets and wants to make up, or if he's using others to pressure me, or if he simply wants to sabotage my work, only he knows. There was a burst of laughter. A few sparse claps echoed in the conference room. I turned to see Grayson, his face full of mockery. Lucas's face visibly darkened before he could react. Grayson spoke first. "Mr. Chi, your words are quite interesting. I was there that day and saw you kneeling on one knee, proposing to someone else. And now you say it was just a moment of confusion." Grayson smiled coldly. "You must have been very confused to say something so shameless." Lucas's face turned red. "What did you say, Lucas?" I cut him off sharply. "We're all adults. We could have handled this with dignity. But you insisted on making it ugly. You want to know why I had to break up with you? I can tell you clearly because I find it disgusting. My boyfriend proposing to his first love in front of me. That scene makes me sick every time I think of it." Lucas looked stunned. After a few seconds, he suddenly turned his fierce gaze to Grayson. "And what about you? Don't think I don't know about those videos on your computer. They all have her in them." I suddenly found it amusing. Amusing that I once genuinely believed we could be partners, that we could rely on each other. Seeing me smile, Lucas started frantically trying to explain. "I didn't go through your computer. I just accidentally saw the videos when you were playing them." "Accidentally, Lucas?" I shook my head. "If I let you see them, how could it have been accidental? I'll say this. I have no regrets about being with you. But I'm breaking up with you because you made a fundamental mistake. I can't pretend nothing happened." Lucas fell silent. I waved my hand, signaling my assistant to escort him out. The farce finally ended. Looking up, I saw Grayson staring at me intently. I ignored him. After quickly wrapping up the meeting, I headed straight to the restroom. My heart was pounding not with excitement, but with anger at the chaotic situation. I had thought that someone's feelings had long faded with time, but now they seemed like wild grass catching fire, spreading in an instant. It forced me to recall what those feelings were like when they first appeared. Back then, I had just entered university full of stubborn energy. The various department heads in the student council were happy to order me around. Today moving this, tomorrow lifting that. I didn't really mind, but Grayson started to feel sorry for me, especially once when I fell down some stairs, scraping my arms and legs on the gravel, leaving them covered in bruises and blood. I bought some iodine to disinfect them myself. After quickly patching myself up, I went back to moving things for the event. I didn't think it was a big deal, but Grayson wasn't happy when he saw it. Though he was helpless against my nausea, he squatted in front of me, frowning as he reapplied the medicine. He carefully instructed me, "You're a girl. You don't need to be so tough. If it hurts, just say so. Who wouldn't help you?" He looked up at me, his eyes reflecting all of me. "You can show weakness, at least with me, understand." There were so many voices and sounds of people passing by, but all I could hear was the deafening beat of my heart. Now I looked at myself in the mirror, calmly fixing my hair and makeup. Chapter 6. After leaving the restroom, I turned to see Grayson leaning against the wall. Hearing the sound of my steps, he looked up at me, his face showing no emotion. For a moment, I was at a loss for words, thinking he was about to mock me again. "Grayson, Before I could finish, Grayson straightened up and, in 2 strides, was in front of me. He stretched out his long arms and pulled me into a tight embrace. "Francesca." His slightly higher body temperature enveloped me, and suddenly I remembered. When I had asked Grayson for a breakup years ago, he didn't agree, but he didn't know what to do. So he could only pull me into his arms and hold me tightly, as if that could keep me from leaving. I had pushed against his waist with all my strength, saying all sorts of harsh things, but tears kept falling, soaking his shoulder. Since that hug, the distance between us had remained awkwardly, stuck at about a meter apart. What was he going to say? I didn't know. After calling my name, Grayson fell silent for a moment. The only sound in the hallway was the beating of our hearts. What was happening? I quickly pushed him away. "Grayson, are you still?" A sudden urgent ringtone cut me off. Grayson stared at me for a long moment. Before pulling out his phone, I caught a glimpse of the caller ID. It was the same girl from that night. I felt a bit helpless. I turned my back to Grayson. "You should answer your call first." But Grayson didn't do as I suggested. Ignoring the still ringing phone, he grabbed my wrist, forcing me to turn around and face him. "Francesca, what were you about to say?" I shook my head, trying to pull my hand away. Grayson wouldn't let go. He kept his eyes locked on me. As the ringtone finally ceased, he asked softly, "Sophia, what were you going to ask me?" That Sophia felt truly out of place. I wanted to ask him if he still liked me. I wanted to ask him if he knew what he was doing. I also wanted to tell him that everything had long since ended, but the ringtone started up again, and all the words stuck in my throat, unable to come out. Grayson seemed to understand, but I think he misunderstood what I meant. He kept one hand firmly holding me, preventing me from leaving, and used the other to answer the call, switching it to speaker mode. "Say what you need to say. If it's nothing important, don't bother me." "Wait, why are you snapping at me?" "I was just calling to tell you that the thing you asked me to take care of a few days ago has been resolved." Before the person on the other end could finish speaking, Grayson interrupted. "Did you hear that? This is my sister." Grayson looked at me, his grip unconsciously tightening, but his tone was almost coaxing. "So, Sophia, what were you going to say to me, Grayson?" I looked down at his hand and pulled it away forcefully. "How come I didn't know you had a sister? And Besides, what does that have to do with me? Sis-in-law, don't misunderstand. I really am Grayson's cousin. Please don't let this cause a misunderstanding. Or else my big bro will definitely get back at me. Grayson cut off the call. He looked at me, his eyes deepening. How could it not be related? I have other brothers and sisters too. If you want to know, I'll tell you everything. Would that be all right? Chapter 7. Grayson's call came in just as I was about to fall asleep, already dressed in my pajamas. Over and over. I thought I should clarify things once more. Make everything completely clear. Just as the ring-on was about to end, I answered the call. But it wasn't Grayson's voice on the other end. Hello. Sorry to bother you so late. But your husband fell asleep at our bar. After drinking too much. Could you come pick him up? My husband, yes. Your husband's top contact is you. The name he saved you under is quite interesting. Something like eternal love. That night in the hallway, Grayson had stared at me, unmoving, with a look of struggle and sorrow in his eyes. He asked me would that be all right. I refused him. Grayson was stunned and he left in a hurry that night. Before he left, he looked at me, his eyes full of disappointment and frustration. At the time, I didn't understand. I thought he was just angry with me. It wasn't until now, standing at the bar just a step away from his booth, that I understood. He was angry because he thought I'd moved on. She really likes that Lucas. What's so good about him? She's with him. But she still has someone else in her heart. If I hadn't tipped her off, she'd still be fooled. Grayson's voice was slurred, but I could still piece together what had happened. That day Lucas had told me he was on a business trip, and I hadn't suspected anything. Then someone added me as a friend, and sent me photos of him and Fernanda together, at various places, which prompted me to follow them. The person sitting next to Grayson Chaden. I'm just saying, if she's fallen for someone else, maybe it's time for you to move on too. What are you really that hung up on her? Grayson didn't respond. He lifted his glass and took a deep gulp. Then he reached out, draping his arm over the person's shoulder. With his other hand, he raised a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. I heard his voice, drunk yet clear. Don't talk about her. You're not allowed to say bad things about her. Grayson lowered his head heavily, slumping over the table, his voice soft. I can't help it. I've only ever liked her since so many years ago. I just regret it. Regret not being braver back then. Not being more determined. Would everything have been different? I couldn't give her a sense of security. I was useless. I was completely frozen in place. Even though I only needed to take one more step to reach him. My legs felt like they were filled with lead, unable to move forward. Grayson's love was too heavy, carrying the weight of 6 years of unspoken feelings, crashing down on me like a tidal wave. I couldn't move. Sigh. After all, the boy who once had eyes only for me really hadn't changed much. This pure affection, 6 years of waiting. Who wouldn't be moved by that? It wasn't until my phone vibrated, pulling me out of my thoughts, that I was saved. It was a message from Shin's mother. Friend, I'm begging you. Could you please reply to Annie's message? Back when Grayson and I had our reunion, Shin's mother had sent me 2 messages. Did he go looking for you? Friend, you're a good girl. Auntie knows you're great. But he could have better options. Chapter 8. I hate trouble, so I ran away again. The moment Grayson looked up at me, I fled in panic. Behind me, I heard the distant sound of glasses and chairs toppling over. I quickly raised my hand to hail a cab. It wasn't until I was seated in the car that I dared to look back. Grayson stood dejectedly on the sidewalk, staring blankly as I drove away from him. I clutched at my chest, wrinkling my shirt in the process, too afraid to glance at the rearview mirror again. The car stopped at the entrance to my building. Dragging my exhausted body, I made my way home. But as soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I saw Lucas. He was squatting by my door, and when he saw it was me, he quickly stood up and rushed over. I was caught off guard. as he wrapped his arms around me tightly. His grip was so strong that I couldn't help but frown. Lucas, let go of me. Friend, I was wrong. Please don't break up with me, okay? I really know I was wrong. I've already sorted things out with her. I promise it won't happen again. Lucas held me tightly, refusing to let me go, his voice trembling, almost incoherent. It was all my fault before. I don't even know what came over me. It was like I was possessed. I knew how hard I worked to win you over, but I still let myself make that mistake. I let out a small laugh, unclear if it was mocking or something else. Lucas' grip tightened even more. I frowned and placed my hands on his shoulders, trying to push him away. Lucas, our relationship. I thought you knew that. It was because you were suitable. Lucas' body suddenly stiffened. He held me, clearly at a loss. Friend, what do you mean? I'm sorry, Lucas, but I never loved you from the beginning. Stop, Lucas interrupted me roughly, tightening his grip, as if he wanted to merge me into his very being. Stop talking, Fran. Please stop, I obliged, saying nothing more. For a moment, the only sound in the hallway was our breathing. It seemed almost peaceful, until Grayson arrived, and the scene hit him like a knife. He swung the fist at Lucas' face. Lucas struck, had no choice but to loosen his grip. Grayson took advantage of his momentary weakness and pulled me to his side, his gaze deadly as he stared at Lucas. Lucas reached out to grab me again. Instinctively, I pulled away. His hand froze midair for a few seconds, before he slowly withdrew it. He seemed to realize something, letting out a self-deprecating laugh. I get it now with those words. Lucas turned and walked towards the elevator. In an instant, the elevator doors closed and he was gone. Finally, Grayson's attention turned to me. He reached into my bag, took out my keys and unlocked the door, pulling me inside and pinning me against the wall. His movements were hasty and rough, yet he didn't forget to cushion my head and back with his hands. Grayson, you really like him that much? You'd let him do anything to you? Grayson shouted at me. His face was flushed, his eyes gleaming with a strange light. Whether from alcohol or tears, I couldn't tell. I lifted my hand to wipe away whatever it was, but he grabbed my wrist. What are you going to push me away again? He can hold you, but I can't. Francesca, answer me. Besides holding you, what else did you let him do? Before I could say anything, Grayson grabbed my chin forcefully. The pressure was so intense that I winced, but he didn't ease up. Francesca, Grayson looked at me, his eyes filled with despair and hurt, before finally forcing out the words. Why won't you answer? For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Memories from 6 years ago played in my mind. The pure, bright-eyed boy he used to be, now standing before me as a mature, tall man, but still with eyes only for me. I fell silent, but Grayson seemed to understand, letting out a bitter laugh. I'm still not enough, am I? Then he slammed the door and left. After the deafening noise, only dead silence remained. The room was so quiet that I could hear the neighbors chatting in their apartment, and I felt a wave of sadness for him. I stood there for a long time, and then, unable to bear it, I opened the door to see him one more time. But the hallway was empty. He won't come back this time, I thought. Maybe that's for the best, a fresh start. I leaned against the door and slowly sank to the floor, burying my head in my arms. It wasn't just him, I felt sad for Francesca. Suddenly I heard my name. I froze. Franny, look up. The only people who call me Franny are my mom and Grayson. I slowly lifted my head. Standing before me was Grayson, who had returned. His eyes were red, a mix of helplessness and tenderness. He held out his hand to me with trembling hands. I took his and stood up. Grayson, Franny. Grayson looked at me, his eyes shining with a certain determination. I don't care about anything else. I just want to ask you one thing. Do you really not have any feelings for me anymore? Not even a little. My eyes suddenly stung with tears. How could I not be moved by such unwavering determination? After a moment, I closed my eyes and squeezed his hand back. Grayson leaned in closer, resting his forehead against mine. All I want is for you to like me even just a little. The rational part of my mind snapped completely. Everything blurred. I didn't say anything. Instead, I lifted my head and kissed him. Grayson was momentarily stunned, but he quickly took control, prying my lips open. Forceful and unyielding, his breath was hot and intense. I felt like my reason evaporated along with his kiss. When Grayson's sweat dripped onto my neck, I closed my eyes and held him tightly. The man he is now and the boy he was 6 years ago. Chapter 9. I had a good night's sleep. When I opened my eyes again, the room was dim. Only a few rays of light leaked in through the gaps in the curtains. Grayson was sitting in those beams of light, looking at me with a gentle expression. I reached out and hooked my fingers around his. Grayson's expression shifted slightly as he grasped my hand more firmly. Our palms pressed together, and then a shadow fell over me. It was followed by Grayson's lips. He cupped my face with one hand, his fingers threading through my hair. As he kissed me intensely, I whimpered softly, wrapping my arms around his neck to respond to his kiss. For a long time, my lips